Good morning, everyone. I am Abby Elizabeth, and this is the Earthen Vessels YouTube channel. This channel is for Christian women, but anyone is welcome to listen. I have what will hopefully be a very brief video today, but a very necessary one. Today I was watching some YouTube videos that contain Southern gospel music, which is something I really enjoy. I love music, and I love glorifying God in music, as any of you who are familiar with this channel know. And I particularly enjoy the worship and praise that comes from certain Southern gospel performers. But I do have to make a comment about this because it does grieve my spirit when I see it. And that is when I witness people in the very popular churches these days giving praise to God, and the women are covered with face paint. And this is something that is not what Christians do. And it's a mark. When you see this, you can know that this is a gathering of people who are not in the faith. Does that mean we can't enjoy their music? Well, no, it doesn't mean that we can't enjoy their music, although we should be careful to look at the lyrics and to make sure there are not any false doctrines in those lyrics. But aside from that, I do want to talk about the issue of women wearing makeup. Now, I'm going to begin by reading something from the book of Enoch. And I am not at all asserting here that the book of Enoch is a sacred, inspired text. But I do believe it to be a historical document that was referenced in the sacred text. And for that reason, we can at least take what it says seriously. But we don't necessarily believe it as inspired. Okay, so let's read in the book of Enoch, chapter 8. And this is verse 1. And Azazel. Now, Azazel is a fallen angel, one of the fallen angels who descended and left his first estate, as recounted in the books of Jude and Peter and also in Genesis. So the angels left their first estate and married human women in order to corrupt the seed and to prevent, in their view, what they were trying to do is prevent the Messiah from being born. It was the beginning of Satan's war against the seed of mankind. And we're seeing this playing out now when various scientists and so forth are tampering with the human seed in many ways. So here we read in Enoch chapter 8 and verse 1, And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives, and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. So the reason I'm reading this is it's important for women to know that things like makeup and the wearing of jewelry is something that originated with the fallen angels. Now, it's something, particularly what I'm focusing on here is the use of makeup. And I may do a video about jewelry on a later date. But basically the idea of embellishing the flesh is something that is contradictory to what the Scripture says about how Christian women in particular, should behave. So let's turn to the book of 1 Timothy chapter 2, and we'll begin with verse 9. In like manner also, that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with braided hair, or gold, or pearls, or costly array, but which becometh women professing godliness with good works. So, shamefacedness I mean, that the idea of shamefacedness, what that really is it's humility. It's a woman who is somewhat shy, or in her face what is reflected is grace and humility and a quiet spirit, which we read of elsewhere in the Bible. And the idea of shamefacedness implies that, of course, we don't do things to embellish our face. And when I see online very popular Christian churches whose women are painted in such a way as to exaggerate their flesh, so the painting of the lips, the painting around the eyes, the emphasis of certain features, that this is very ungodly, and it is grievous to see, because people in the world who look at these things see these women pretty much painted like prostitutes. And, I'm not saying this to insult anyone, but really to call your attention to how this kind of practice can offend, and it can make the way of Jesus Christ seem to be something that it isn't. So I had seen a comment on one of these music videos where someone said, "These people are having a lot of fun. I want to be with them." And that's true. They are having a lot of fun. And it is good to have joy in worshiping the Lord. But for women to adorn themselves in such a way as to emphasize their beauty or their sexuality, to draw attention to the flesh rather than to draw attention to their quiet spirit, to their good works, is in fact something that's a manifestation of rebellion and witchcraft. So for that reason, I did want to make a very short video. There's one passage in the Bible that I'd like to just quickly go to, which is 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 10. And this is, of course, talking about women covering their heads. And I would recommend to go back and read this entire chapter if you're a sister and you're not familiar with it. But we read in 1 Corinthians chapter 11 and verses 14 and 15. It says here, "Doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him. But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given to her for a covering." So the idea of women having long hair, or that their hair is their covering, is frequently a mistake in the churches. And you also see this in these types of gatherings where the women, where their hair it might be long, but it's all done up. It's done to, again, increase the attractiveness of their flesh. But if we read this entire chapter and we begin with verse 5, it says, "But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head uncovered dishonoreth her head, for that is even all one as if she were shaven." So very clearly, if a woman without a headscarf or a veil, praying or prophesying, that if this is as if she were shaven, then clearly the scripture is not saying that a woman's long hair is her veil. So then if we read in verse 10, it says, "Nevertheless, neither is the man," "for this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of the angels." So why because of the angels? Well, this is a reference to what happened in Genesis 6, where the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took unto them wives. And this was done in rebellion against God, where the angels left their first estate in an attempt to keep the Messiah from being born by corrupting human seed and having sex with human women. One part of a woman that is especially beautiful is her long hair. And the reason that Christian women cover their hair when praying or prophesying is so that they don't attract the attention of fallen angels and devils, but also so that they're not a distraction or a temptation to either God's holy angels or men in the congregation. It is to cover with grace and humility a woman's beauty, because a woman's beauty is for her husband and not to be flaunted in the congregation. So covering the hair is an act of modesty, and not wearing makeup is a demonstration in a Christian woman that she knows that her true beauty is the hidden man of the heart, and that it is truly lovely not only to the people around her, but to God, when she has shamefacedness, which is humility and a meek spirit, a quiet spirit, even a shy spirit. That this is something that is pleasing to God. And when women behave in this manner, that just their presence alone is a demonstration of the attitude that Christians have towards Jesus Christ, which is to honor the head. Jesus Christ is the head of the church, and the church honors the head. When women behave in a way to cover their flesh and to behave modestly, to be quiet, to be simple, then this is something that is a testimony. Now, finally, I'd like to just make a brief mention that in these times there are many people who are under spiritual attack, women who are under spiritual attack. Part of this reason is because of the breakup of families. So many women are alone. What I would just strongly urge you to do as a sister, if you feel yourself to be under spiritual attack, to look to your mode of dress, whether or not your head is covered, and whether or not you are doing things to adorn your flesh, such as wearing gaudy jewelry or makeup, or clothing that is male clothing, or clothing that is worn to attract attention to your physical beauty rather than your spiritual beauty. Because when we do that, in this day and age, it's very popular to do that, and people pretend that it's innocent, that women can't help it, or they're not aware that their beauty has power. But if you're a Christian woman and you're under spiritual attack, I would examine this part of your life. Are you actually dressed modestly? Are you covering your hair? Are you behaving in such a way that is honoring of Jesus Christ by demonstrating the relationship of the church to Jesus Christ, by being humble and meek and honoring the authority of men in the churches, listening in the churches, not contending, not exalting yourself as a teacher over men. Now, I realize that I'm in some ways teaching on this channel, but the role of this ministry is to teach the younger woman, as written in the book of Titus. So if you have further questions about that, feel free to ask me, and I will either send you a video or I will send you an email, whatever is most appropriate. But the older women teach the younger women about how to behave in the world, and that's one of the primary purposes of this particular YouTube channel. It's not to take authority over men or tell men in the church how to behave. It's to speak to women in particular. So, at any rate, that's what I wanted to do today. I wanted to call your attention to things that are widely done and practiced in the world these days that are not pleasing at all to God. They actually dishonor Jesus Christ by exalting the woman's flesh. And particularly when this happens in the congregation, it's a very grievous thing. And so I wanted to call your attention to it in case you were unaware of the origin of this. Okay, My prayers are with you all, and feel free to email me with questions or comments, or you can comment or have a question in the comment section below.